Hello, everyone. I am here today with a legend. You have probably seen him in some of the top comedic films. You may see him on TV, on sports broadcasts, or maybe you've even seen him on Instagram. Rob Riggle is a legend. He's not only had an amazing career thus far, but he's served our country as a Marine, and he is all out an amazing man that I'm blessed to have on the show today. So thank you for being
What a
here.
nice intro. Thank you for that.
I mean
That's
it.
probably way more than I deserve. So
No,
thank you.
I'm so honored to have you on this couch. Truly,
Well, I appreciate that.
truly.
Thank you.
Just getting to know you a little bit and knowing Rob grew up in the Midwest. And I just want you to talk about your come up story because it is truly so awe-inspiring what you've created in your life. But I always like people to know where you come from and what that looked like. So let's dive in.
Sure, sure. Well, you mentioned I'm from Kansas City, so I grew up in the Midwest, Overland Park, Kansas, to be specific. It was a little suburb of Kansas City. Really nice childhood, really great place to grow up. Midwest back in the 80s was a really fun place. I followed the path that most people my age and in that region did, which was go to school, play sports, and go on to college, which I was fortunate enough to do, uh, and and pursued theater, film there, which I really loved. But at the time, I didn't know anybody in California or New
Right.
York or in show business.
Right.
So I liked doing it, and I loved film. I loved theater, but it wasn't real. It didn't seem like, oh, that's a viable way to make a living.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, I enjoyed that, but now what am I going to really do? Which is kind of a Midwest mindset. It's that, okay,
Truly.
that's sure, dream all you want, but what are you really going to do? How are you going to pay your bills?
Yep.
And so I bought into that mindset. And I, again, I just didn't think it was, not that I was in any way hindered, but I just didn't think it was in the cards. I didn't think it was something that was even possible because it's such a long shot. And so I was like, well, so much for that. So what am I going to do? Well, I was lucky enough to have my pilot's license when I was in college. So I got a guaranteed flight contract with the Marine Corps. And I always wanted to serve. I'm a very patriotic guy. I do love this country. I know we have some faults and some things that aren't perfect, but that's show me a place that is.
Right. Exactly.
And we're always working on it. We're always trying to improve, which I appreciate that as well. So I wanted to serve, and so I said, well, this is my chance to do it. So that's what I did, and I will give the Marines a lot of credit because people are always like, how do you go from the Marines to comedy? They seem like they're polar opposite.
But yeah.
And yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But I never changed my personality to become a Marine. I was always me. I'm always going to be me.
That's awesome.
Now, when I put on my Marine hat, I did what I had to do as a Marine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change my personality. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have fun. It doesn't mean I'm not going to make fun of situations. It doesn't mean I'm not lighthearted. It doesn't mean I'm without joy. It doesn't mean any of those things. It doesn't mean I check my judgment at the door or anything like that. It just means I have more responsibilities. That's all it meant.
Exactly.
But I give the Marines a lot of credit because when I went in the Marines, I joined when I was 19. When I finished undergrad, I was 22, and that's when I kind of really dove in. And I didn't have a lot of confidence. I was kind of like most 22-year-old men, kind of a knucklehead with. I had a general idea of, I knew right from wrong.
Right.
And I knew this is a good path and that's a bad path. And maybe I should go down this path. And maybe that'll lead to something someday.
Yeah.
Or good skills. And so I did that. And I give the Marines a lot of credit, though, because they were the ones who showed me for the first time, maybe, in my life. And I had played sports, so I had pushed myself. But I never pushed myself beyond what I thought was capable. I really thought this is my limit. This is my physical and mental limit is right here. And the Marines showed me it was way up here.
That's great.
And so they pushed me way beyond my limits. And by doing that, they showed me if I can do what I didn't think I could, then what can I do?
Right.
And that kind of ignited the flame in my head that said, well, you could be an actor. You could be a comedian. You should go for it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't go for it now, you'll never know.
Yeah.
You'll always regret it, and you'll hate yourself for it.
Yeah.
And so, and I've said this before, but I could live with the failure more than I could live with the not knowing. So that's the gist of how I kind of got started. And then, of course, I stopped flying for the Marines. I became a ground officer, which shortened my commitment. I ended up staying in for 23 years, but it shortened my commitment at the time. It gave me the option of leaving active duty and joining the reserves and pursuing comedy and acting, whereas before I would have been locked into active duty probably for 20 years. So that's what I did. I did just that, and we have a mutual friend, Randy.
Yes.
And he always talks about how he scripts the life he wants. And I love that.
I love that.
Yeah. And so I kind of was trying to do that without knowing what I was doing. But I said, okay, well, I'm going to stay in the Marines. I'm going to do this. I'm going to pursue comedy and acting. And it worked out. I got to New York and I just grinded for years and years and years at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, any stand-up club, any place you could do sketch comedy. And then I finally got a break. About 7 years into the grind, I finally got an opportunity. And that was my first big break was Saturday Night Live.
Oh my goodness.
So then that's kind of how I went from Kansas to New York.
So tell me about the defining moment where you truly made a decision.
I would call it, or actually maybe it was John Mayer who called it a quarter life crisis, because I think I was about 24 years old at the time. And it was that critical moment. Like I said, I had my pilot's license. I was down in flight school. I'd made it through primary. I was in Corpus Christi, Texas, down at Naval Air Station in Corpus Christi, and I was working my way through the program. And I just had that coming to Jesus moment, I guess, where you sit there and you say, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Hold on. What are my dreams? What do I care about? What do I want? How do I want to live my life? All these things. And they just kind of hit me all at once. And I had a friend, and I was in flight school. So I'm flying planes every day, and I'm trying to keep up the syllabus, and I'm doing okay. I'm doing fine. But I'm not passionate about it.
Yeah.
Which there's a big difference, because when I would go out with my buddies from my flight class, we'd be in the bar having a beer on a Friday night, and they're over the corner talking with their hands about that day's flight. They're the breakup and rendezvous was amazing. And, well, I lost about 2,000 feet altitude. And and I'm sitting there going, let's go talk to the girls. Let's do something else. And so I figured, maybe if I'm going to be flying off a ship at night, I better be passionate about it like they are.
Right.
So I went through all these questions and stuff, and I had a friend from college call me who was up in Chicago doing improv. And he's like, dude, everything we did in college, it has a name. It's called improv. And I'm telling you, you can do this. You're better than half the guys up here. You got to give it a shot. So I heard that. I was like, just all these signs and signals and questions were coming at me at once.
Right.
And like I said, I was kind of a typical 23, 4-year-old guy, which was like, just go through life, get up every day, handle your business, go to bed, maybe party on Friday. That was it,
Right.
And so not much laser focus on higher office or anything like that.
Right.
It was just kind of going through the motions. But for whatever reason, I started to question a lot of things and about where I was and what I really wanted. And it all started because I read a book by Tony Robbins, Unlimited Power. I read it. And they had such great questions in there. And he had such great, I don't know, it just, they say the teacher shows up when the student's ready.
Yep.
And so I was ready, I guess, because I was burning with these questions and these doubts maybe and concerns about, I could have gone that path and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But it was that, and so I read that book at just that moment, and boy, all that hit me like a ton of bricks. So I made the first adult decision I ever made that I would call my own, and solely my own, was to join the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
That was all me. I had to make that. No one else could make that for me. No one else could, stop me, whatever. The second one was whether or not I was going to continue flying or not for the Marines.
Mm.
And I never quit anything in my life. So quitting, I had a real bad taste in my mouth about it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of it. I didn't want it to be something that I started and continued. I just really abhorred it. It's like debt. I hate debt and I hate quitting. So I just don't like those things.
Same.
So I was like, all right, well, I was really wrestling with this. So I went down to the beach, very, dramatic, I guess. And I said, okay, well, and I'm praying about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm going through it. And I said, well, listen, if I quit flight school, let's run through that scenario, pros and cons it out. Okay. If I stay, pro and con it out. And I just said, well, listen, if I end up quitting flight school, it's got to count. It's got to matter. I can't just do this in the hopes of, and then blow that off, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
So I opened the back of that book I was reading, that TR book, and I wrote, the first thing I wrote in the back of the book was, and if you're going for it, go for it.
Right.
Don't aim low, aim high.
That's right.
So I said, if I quit flight school, I am going to get on Saturday Night Live. And I just wrote it. That was the first thing I wrote. And that was September of 94. And cut to September 2004, I get a call from Lauren Michaels asking me to join the cast of Saturday Night Live. So 10 years, almost to the day that I wrote that down, that call came through. And that 10 years was not easy.
Right.
That 10 years was full of night school and it was full of, there was 2 wars. There was 3 deployments that I went on, to Liberia, to Kosovo, to Albania, to Afghanistan. 9/11 happened. I worked at the rebel piles. I was working, 365 days a year, basically, because, I had multiple jobs to pay the bills, and then comedy at night on top of it, but no complaining. But that's it wasn't like
reality.
It wasn't just like 10 years went by.
Yeah.
It was grinding 10 years, but then it happened, then it happened. Then I learned another really valuable lesson, which is, okay, you got it. I didn't make any other plans beyond that.
Right. So you wrote it down. I want this in 10 years. Boom, it happens.
And then I should have written down more things.
Right.
Because what happened was I got it. It didn't last all that long.
Right.
2004, 2005. And then, and it was over. And all of a sudden it was over. And I'm sitting there going, what? Huh? And I had to recalibrate my thinking, my dreams, my goals, I really had just been so myopic on that one thing. And granted, it paid off. And it took all the manifesting and all the energy and all the effort I had. But it was a valuable lesson, because now I don't just have one thing I'm working on. I always have a couple things, because if you get that one thing, you need to be ready for the next thing.
You do.
And I also learned a valuable lesson too, because naively, this is how naive I was. I thought, I get SNL, we're golden, we're home free. Now it's just a matter of sitting back and picking and choosing. Well, that's not how the world works.
Is it not how it works?
Not how it works at all. Not even. It's laughable how it's not even like that.
Right.
So I learned another valuable lesson, which is there is no finish line. There's no finish line.
That's right.
It doesn't exist. There's no point in your life, in your career, business, entrepreneurship, acting, pick whatever category.
Right.
There's no place where you get to go, and I'm done.
Yep.
Now I just sit back and collect checks.
It's so true.
Well, maybe in business, if you do it right in business.
Right.
But if you want to have purpose, if you want to
fulfillment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no finish line. And so that was a valuable lesson too that I learned, which was, the grind, the hustle never stops.
Yeah.
So if you recalibrate your mind a little bit and get it in your head, this is how it is, then it's not so bad.
Right.
It's when you mismanage your expectations that you get frustrated and angry at the world, because you're like, oh, it's like in an airport, when if they don't make an announcement, everybody starts walking around getting furious.
Right.
All they have to do is go, the flight's delayed 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
chill out.
Everybody goes like
Everyone
this.
chills.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to manage your own expectations, but you got to be real.
Yeah.
You can't say, I'm going to make it in 2 years. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Right. You got to love it. You got to, I just want to back up for a minute, because it's like this 10-year period. And I look at it even in my life with like business skills, speaking, all that. Same. It was 10 years.
Yeah.
So people see things happening now, but I'm like, you don't see what was happening when I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor, grinding. Like it would be
You
like,
didn't see me do a 1 a.m. improv jam for 9 drunks down in the Lower East Village when they were all drunk, and the only people that weren't drunk were the guys waiting to get up on stage after me.
oh my gosh.
So yeah, you didn't see that.
Yeah, and those are the moments. And
Yeah.
one time I gave a presentation in a janitor's closet to like 2 women. And I spoke as if I was in a stadium of, thousands of people.
Yeah.
And this is just so overlooked because they don't, those moments, those days that are shaping you, refining you. It's almost like
Testing you.
It's almost like God is like, how bad do you really want it, Rob? Like, how bad do you really want it? And I just feel like if you get the opportunity then to be on SNL or to be on some of these amazing films or even produce like you have, it's like, you just kind of enjoy it more now because you're like, the journey it took you to get there, right?
Absolutely. And I think, and I'm not picking on the younger generation, but I think they have immediate gratification syndrome. They also
100%.
have a thing where they're like, I'm manifesting it. I understand that. I hear you. But you got to meet God halfway.
You too.
You got to do the work, and then maybe some of these things will fall into place for you.
Yeah.
But if you're not grinding and hustling, Will Ferrell told me it takes 10 years to make an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
And he was right. And now you can give or take a year or two, but that's the general rule.
Right.
Especially if you choose a life in the arts. If you choose a life in the arts, just count on this again, back to managing expectations.
Yeah.
Count on 10 years.
Yeah.
Count on 10 years of grinding, of being told no, of being told not you. And even though you nail an audition or you know the character, you nailed it, you could play this in your sleep, not you.
Right.
Why? I don't know, not you. And you just have to go back to the drawing board and go keep grinding and grinding.
How did you learn to like not take that personal?
It still hurts sometimes. Yeah, it always.
Yeah.
But it's like you build a callus.
You do.
And then you realize half the time, because now I'm on this side of the table sometimes, and I'm the producer, and so I'm watching people audition for me sometimes, and I say, okay, I get it now because it isn't personal. It's not.
Right.
It's very much, I love the audition, you killed it, but this character needs this whatever vibe, look, height,
so many things.
There's so many things that are out of your control. So the best thing you can do is step up there and give them your best, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Oh, such good advice.
But it's so hard.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
I bet. I want to know what it's like. I'm trying to imagine you like walking into SNL. Like
that audition, it's a process though, it's a long process.
Like, what was it like though? Like, hey, you got a gig, your first ever, moment.
The first day I showed up, I remember I walked in and saw some of the writers, saw some of the cast, and they were like, and we had known each other from outside of the show, but just because of the comedy world. And they were like, Riggle. I go, yeah. They go, you got hired? I was like, yes. They're like, oh, that's awesome. And I remember I got my ID and stuff, which I thought, 30 Rock. I was like, hey, that felt pretty good.
Yeah.
So that was good. I remember, in the Marines, I was in many dangerous situations, and none of them compared to the adrenaline rush I had the first show, and
wow.
Ben Affleck was he was the host. And I played a fireman, and it was basically an escalator had got stuck, and so we treated it as if it was an elevator, and all these people are being overdramatic or whatever on an escalator.
Yeah.
So we had to do a rescue, and I was the guy who went in rescue. But that was my first line, and just having to say, "Hey, can anybody hear me up there?" That's all I had to do. How easy is that, right?
Yeah.
But I remember walking back and forth and saying it over and over,
right?
Like,
you're tripping.
Oh man,
yeah, you're tripping.
I'm breathing out heavy, and I'm like, oh god, and everyone's like, you ready? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's hit it. And I had done stuff before. It's not like I'd never done anything before, but for whatever reason, it was all of that work, 10 years of work to that moment, and now it's happening. And then the very surreal moment too, my whole life I had watched SNL, and so at the end of the show, when they're on the stage doing the goodnight credits, right? To be on that, standing on the stage looking back at the
Oh,
cameras
wow.
was the most
Oh,
surreal moment where
wow.
I'm like, oh my God. Because they have the 3 cameras and you're waving goodnight and then you're shaking hands with the cast and hugging, and because it's a long week, you know.
Oh, for sure.
And I was like, this is happening. This is actually, and I'm here. So that was very special.
Oh, I
That was very,
bet.
very special,
Oh,
but very surreal.
yeah.
And it takes a long time to process this stuff. And when you find yourself in a scene with Liam Neeson or Tom Hanks, or you're doing these scenes with these guys, or De Niro, all you want to do is pick up the phone and call everybody you've ever met in your entire life.
Right. Right.
And go, oh my God, you will not believe what's happening
Yeah,
to me
yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
But you can't. You
Yeah.
gotta,
You just
gotta
got to
try to,
stay in there.
yeah.
And oh my gosh. So what was it like? Now you're doing SNL. Like, do you go back to your apartment? Like, what's life like? Like, did you have any moments of like ego, like I'm the shit, or
No.
have you always stayed pretty level-headed?
No ego. Well, shoot. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some
Yeah.
ego, but I wouldn't say like I was cock of the walk.
Yeah.
I wasn't strutting.
Yeah.
Because I was uneasy. I was uneasy. That environment can be unnerving.
I bet.
And I was green. I was as green as a golf course. Like I knew so little. Looking back now, I knew so little about politics. I knew so little, and when I say I mean that in the workplace,
Yeah.
not
Totally.
political climate. I'm just talking about just who to talk to, who not to talk to, who to avoid, where to spend your time, where to
Right.
put your energy.
Right.
Hey, Lauren walked in the room. Okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I should do something. I just didn't understand a lot of the structure, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I never was cock of the walk. I never
Yeah.
took that attitude. But yeah, of course, the first time anybody ever asked for a picture or asked for an autograph, there is a moment you're like, cool.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Pretty
Oh,
cool.
you saw that, huh, did you? And but that,
Yeah.
believe me, wears off
Right.
so fast.
Yeah.
And it's so hollow and it's so empty and it means nothing. And then you realize they don't care at all. They just,
Right.
hey,
Right.
my boyfriend thinks you're funny. Can I get a picture?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I guess. You don't even
Yeah.
want it. Why are we?
Right.
And then they want your time and they want your energy and they want your life force and they want this and they want
You're
that.
so right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to go out anymore. I don't even want to be seen. I just want to get
Mhm.
my car and just not, because everybody wants something.
I know.
And I know,
Yeah.
ooh, boo hoo, boo hoo.
Yeah.
But it,
No.
it is a thing that until you experience it, you really never
You
know.
really never know.
Yeah.
When did you learn like you needed depth? Like you needed a couple great friends that actually
I was
cared?
so blessed. I was blessed in my life to have good people
Good.
in my
Yeah.
life. My best friend, we started playing football in 5th grade. We're still, best friends today. So, and all my friends from back home, that's who I choose to hang with. That's who I choose to spend my time with.
Yeah.
The guys that I got into comedy with, great guys. I'd like to think, I don't, I don't want to say don't suffer fools, but I just don't put up with much weirdness or
Yeah.
craziness. If you're going to
Yeah.
be crazy, just take it down the road.
Yeah.
And so I gravitate towards, I think, pretty decent people.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
What has
And
been
I'm a big believer in that phrase, hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll be the 6th,
same?
right? Hang out with 6 losers, you'll be the
I'm
7th.
the same.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
and I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Uh-huh.
I was telling my son that the other day.
Yeah.
I said, hey, if you hang out with 5 winners, 5 studs,
Yeah.
you'll probably be the 6th.
So
Probably.
true.
And if you hang out with 5 turds,
Yeah.
you're probably going to be the 6th.
What did he say to that?
That resonated with him, because most of my wisdom just,
Yeah.
in one ear out
Right.
the other,
Right.
But that one actually, I think he was like, that's a good point, Dad. I was
Yeah.
like,
Real good.
one.
Yeah.
I got one in there.
Yes. Yes. What has been like your, I don't know, most proud of thing you've done in your career? Like what's been some fun?
I think I'm most proud of, and this is, I'm not trying to, it's not a humble brag. I'm just saying I've used what little celebrity I have to do wonderful things in my hometown of Kansas City. We have Children's Mercy Hospital there, and I've used a celebrity to do a fundraiser there with other celebrities that are from Kansas City, and we'd raise a lot of money for Children's Mercy. And that's
Awesome.
That's something
Yeah.
that will live way beyond my years.
Mhm.
The amount of money we've raised over the time that we've done it, the amount of help that's gone directly to the hospital, the lives that have been
Yeah.
saved, like that. That's something that's awesome, and it was all
Yeah.
because of my acting career.
Yeah.
But for that, I'm not going to get people to come out to do these events,
Right.
So that's a cool thing. And then I also do a lot with the veterans community. Same scenario where my celebrity has allowed me to reach back into certain communities. So that's the most beneficial thing. Now, what movie did I love making the most? Or
Yeah. Like, so tell me, let's hear some stories about that.
I've always just been really, the thing about show business, like I said, there's no finish line, but you have to do a good job. And if you do a good job, you get another opportunity.
Oh.
And so then, so every time you show up, it's like a final exam. You got to kill it. You got to kill it. And then you maybe get another, but you string together enough of those, you start to build up a body of work, and then people can count on you, and they know, oh yeah, like,
Yes.
let's do that, or maybe he could, and reputation, if you're easy to work with, if you're a professional, you show up, you do your work, you're courteous to the other actors, you're uh, willing to do more than is asked of you. If you do, these things get remembered.
They do.
And they make a difference. They really make a difference, because you can find the other stuff just as easy.
Right.
If you're, because I've been a director, I've been a producer, I've been on that side where you need, this actor to, you got to stay.
Perform.
Yeah, you got to. I need your A game, and I also, we're out of time. We only have time for one setup. I need you to get it in 2 or 3 takes, and then I need you to stick around for another hour because we didn't get this one shot or whatever, And if you don't do it, it's going to screw up the chain effect that has.
Totally.
And so, help me, and
Yeah.
they can say no, and they can bail, and they can say, that's what we weren't contracted for that. We weren't that, and you have to accept it. But the ones that say, hey man, I'll help you out. What do you need?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'll never forget it. You just never forget it. And then you're like, next time something comes up, you pick up that phone. That's your first call.
Yep. I always say how you do anything is how you do everything. And also, I call it like your credit score. Like, I have people in my life, like, they have a credit score, meaning like if they cancel last minute and then it happens again and then they flop I'm like, dude, your credit's low and I'm not calling you. I'm not doing business with you. I'm not calling you.
Yeah.
And I can't even count on you for a dinner in Malibu. It's just your credit score is dropping, and it seems so elementary, but it means everything.
Yeah.
It does.
I learned in the Marines, you return phone calls promptly. You respond to emails and texts as promptly as you can. It's just a respect thing. You respect people's time.
Yeah.
And it's so funny though, because I think, and again, I'm not picking on it, but artists in general, they're just not laser focused. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to call. You're like, dude, do you want to do this project or not? Like, come on.
Yeah.
You're killing me right now.
Yeah.
So it's credit score. It goes to what you're saying.
Yeah. I look at your career, and everybody, oh my gosh, like, we'll put in the show notes, everything that you've done, all your bodies, it's just incredible. Like, truly, I'm sitting with a legend in the presence of greatness. I have so many questions, and at some point we even need to go deeper, because it's like, I just think of just the knowledge you have of just the years of creating and knocking on doors and getting opportunities. Have you, now looking at your career, how do you choose what to do? Like, would you rather produce? Would you rather direct? Would you rather act? And what does that look like in your day-to-day with having kids?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to act first. That's always my first love. And I'll stay in front of the camera as long as it'll have me. As long as anybody will have me, I'll stay in front of it. But, second to that would be writing and then directing and then producing. And I kind of mentioned that earlier, like, producing is just solving people's problems.
Yeah.
But I love all the elements. I have such respect for all the elements, because you need them all.
What last remarks would you give anybody, like people that listen and watch this show? They want more for their life. They want to live a life by design. Like, truly, that is who listens to this. And like, just what you've done and like those 10 years of your perseverance, it's like where a lot of these people are right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, I could quit, I could keep going. What advice would you give them?
Oh man, there's so much advice to be given.
Little tip.
Yeah.
Little tip.
Well, okay. So we have a saying in the Marines: "Keep it simple, stupid." KISS. KISS is the acronym.
I love that.
So keep it simple, stupid. And to me, what that means is just do the foundational stuff, and you will. If you do that, the rest will build itself. And what is that? That is, to me, it is know yourself. Okay, you got to know yourself.
Yeah.
You got to know what you want. Right? If you don't know what you want, you're wasting everybody's time. You're just a ship without a rudder. You're
straight up
floating.
Yeah.
So know who you are, and what does that mean? I mean, you have to discover for yourself. But to discover who you are, like what are you good at? What are you bad at? What do you like? What do you don't like? Where are your flaws? Where are your weaknesses? Work to improve those. Where are your strengths? Work to enhance those. You know, like know yourself. Know what you want. Those are two huge things, and then. Don't make any excuses.
That's right.
You know, the excuses are the easiest thing in the world. It's the easiest out. We're all victims, okay? We're all victims of something. But don't let that be your excuse. You know, it's when you take ownership, good or bad, that's when things turn around in your life, is when you say, hey, you know, I am where I am today because of this, you know, and I screwed up and I did this wrong. And it doesn't mean you have to attach shame to it. I think that's what people get weighed down by, the shame of a failure. And a failure is not a failure until you quit or until you allow that shame to wash over. You know, stand into it, lean into it.
Yes.
You know what? I could have done that better and I didn't. But it doesn't mean I'm a terrible person.
Right.
And so what it means is I just learned something and now I'm better. And so another foundational thing is keep moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. A great saying is your future needs you a lot more than your past, right? And I'm a big believer in that. So foundational stuff, do that stuff, and then just don't be talked out of it. Just go for it.
Yeah. You're the definition of going for it. And I cannot wait to see what else you put out in the world. Your greatness, you absolutely are. And it's such a gift to learn from you, and just being with you even today and just hearing bits. You know, people can see in the public world of the great comedy you've put out and the accolades and the this and the that, but like truly to know what kind of man you are and your mission. And I know like you're just getting started and you have so much to teach people. Not only in the arts, but in sales and business and life and personal development. So follow Rob wherever. Instagram, is that the place?
I'm on Instagram and Facebook, I think. And,
yeah.
Twitter. I'm so bad at this stuff. I got to get better.
Yeah.
That's one thing. 23, I'm going to work on.
Yes, we're going to do it. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And all that right back at you. I hope you know that.
Thank you.